Hi, I'm Taylor, and we're going to be doing a short textured bob today. Spin her around. So I already have all of her hair nice and wet, and I've already sectioned her part off. So now I'm going to take a section in the middle. Making sure you have nice, clean sections is very important. So then I'm going to take two small triangle sections at the bottom. All right. And now to ensure that I'm not going to have any of the extra hairs hanging in the back, I'm going to just have her tilt her head straight down. Making sure you have that natural fall is going to also be best for the hair, not using your fingers and pulling that tension. I also like to go back and make sure that my sides are even before I move on to the next section. And then we just take our next triangle section and start working up the back. All right, and then you're going to find your previous guide. She does have layers in her hair, so it's going to be a little harder going up to start seeing any longer links at the base of the neck. Again, going in to check your guide to make sure you have those even links on both sides. Once you see that the hair no longer covers your guide anymore, you can start working your way up with the layering techniques as well. And I also always make sure that I'm working evenly up the head so one side does not get longer than the other. Because we are angling it, once I start to get to those corners, I'm going to start holding it so I can preserve some of that length. Also making sure that the hair is almost like precision combed as well. Precision combing helps to make sure that you have a precise haircut as well. So now I can see that there is no hair covering my guide. So I'm going to go ahead and take my quadrant section. So I'm just going to section off this back half from the front. And then the same thing on this side as well. All right, so now I'm going to finish working in these corners before I move on to the front quadrants. So I'm just going to pull those down with my hands, make sure that it meets the guide, and then I'm going to point cut that to make sure it's not so blunt on the ends. All right, once I've done that, I'm going to go back on my sides, check my base length one more time. All right, and then now we're going to connect the front quadrants to the back. I am going to section off and almost like a diagonal section there. She does have layers, so it's not as important, but somebody who's getting a blunt haircut, this will be really important for you. You don't want to take any sections that are going to be too thick and cause that chunkiness at the bottom. Okay, and then because we're at her ear now, I'm going to make sure I go in and tap that a couple times so it loosens that hair. This just ensures that you don't have that gap where the ear is once you finish the haircut. Again, I'm going to work from side to side so I make sure that I keep her haircut even on both sides. A diagonal section down on this side as well. Again, making sure you're tapping at those ears to loosen that hair. You can also have the client turn their head over their shoulder so you're able to reach those lengths, especially as that hair angles down a little longer. Or you can have them tilt their head over like this so you can ensure that you don't have those disconnects on the underneath. All right. I'm going to go ahead and let this section down. Going to let this section down as well. Again, I'm just making sure that everything is pulled straight down into its natural fall. She does have straight hair, so how it's laying now is how it's going to fall later. All right, and then I'm going to double check the links in the front to make sure that those are even. Most of the time you would use your mirror for this, but for the purpose. Okay, now that I've ensured that her base length is even all the way around, I'm going to go in at the back here where her layers are and take a middle section so I can start my guide. And making sure that the hair is super wet too when you're cutting will also help. If you don't want to use clips, this will help the hair stay over. You can have a more precise sectioning if you do use your clips though. Okay. And then I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to pull her layers out at a 90-degree angle. And again, I'm just going to go in and point cut those ends. So we just get those little wispies off and making sure we're keeping that shape. Obviously, there are different types of shapes that you can create with every haircut, so you have to be mindful of that when you are choosing the angle of your layers. Okay, and then once I have my guide, I'm going to section my guide back down the middle, split those hairs. And then I'm going to start working on this side. Obviously, you can work whichever side feels more comfortable for you. I typically work around the left side with layers and then move to the right. Again, making sure that those hairs are precisely combed so you don't have anything that's bunched up. And then as I'm working down past her occipital towards her nape, I start to pull that down to more of a 45-degree angle to taper that in. And you always want to make sure that you have a section of your previous guide. I think this is the quietest haircut I've ever done. And then once I get back to my quadrant section, I'm going to just comb that forward and stop once I get to that side. Obviously, I am rotating where I pull my layers from where I start. So this section is going to be pulled straight out here. This section is going to go straight this way, and then this one is going to come straight out here. All right, and then I'm going to section this back off in the middle and then working my way around the right side of the head. Again, pulling that hair out at a 90-degree angle. I also use the YS Park combs because, let me get closer, they have the little grip right here that helps me be able to section that hair off a lot faster. So I'm not spending 15 minutes sectioning out every little piece of hair and taking away from the haircut. All right, and then once I've worked my way through to both of the quadrant sections, I'm going to go back and cross-check, and so I'm going to do this by just combing everything straight down. And then you're going to take a section, and you're going to pull that hair straight out and make sure that those are even all the way across. You can work your way up or down with this, it doesn't matter. You can also do that again on the corner section as well. Pull it out to the diagonal and make sure that there's not a corner here. And then same thing on the left side. Pull that straight out. Okay. Then once I've worked my way all the way through the back section, I am going to section off a piece of my previous guide from the back, and I'm going to take a small section from both sides of her part. So then I'm going to use that previous section from the guide in the back and make sure that that is her longest point. She likes her layers to be kind of short and really texturized on the top. So we make sure that those are angled down. And then once you have your guide established in the front, you're going to section back out the part. And then I'm going to work in straight across sections, pulling that hair straight up to my previous guide. Making sure all of that hair is nice and straight so you can ensure that your layers are even. And then I'm going to work same sections on the other side. I guess I should probably use like more technical terms for this, but
You're good.
that's the next step. And then once I have pulled all of the sections up into one, I'm going to go back and cross-check the opposite direction. And then I want to make sure that my hair goes from short to the long, from the part to the outside of the hair. And you want those bottom layers to fall out because those are going to be your longest length. So you're taking more from the top and less from the bottom. And then I'm going to go back and do the same thing on the other side as well. Making sure my sections are nice and even. And then making sure that hair is combed all the way out. All right, and then I'm going to go back and double check the base lengths to make sure that everything is even after cutting those layers. Awesome, and then I'm going to have her tilt her head down one more time so I can make sure that there are no hairs that are sticking out in the back. The thicker the hair, the worse that this is going to be. So. All right. And then now we would style and blow dry and then go back and cross-check everything again to make sure that it's even. But that's how you do a textured short cut.